Hello and welcome to Bible Study with Alice, and today we're on day 1 Chronicles chapter 1 of our daily Chronicle reading. We're reading from the ESV translation, but you're more than welcome to join us from a different translation. As you can see, we are in a new book, 1 Chronicles, and we are on chapter 1. These videos are filmed in real time. Today's date is the 16th of May 25 and it's a Friday. And what we're going to be doing for the next probably going to be a couple of months, we're going to be covering 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles. And we're going to do a playlist, and it's just going to be Book of Chronicles. So 1 Chronicles and 2 Chronicles will go into that playlist, so it covers both. The Book of Chronicles was actually one book, but they split it into 2. But that's the reason why I'm going to put the playlist as 1, and why we're going to cover the whole of it, 1 Chronicles and 2. And today we're going to be looking at both introductions in the ESV, so we know where we're going to go with it. And obviously when we get into 2 Chronicles, we'll go over it again just to kind of refresh our memory, but that's what we're going to be doing. And then, as usual, I'll read the chapter and go over the information that is which is here, to be able to understand what we're going to be reading and to be able to understand it better. The first video is always a longer video, so you're aware, because there is a lot of content that needs to be covered, and I am going to be aware that it's going to be a long one. And also there is disclaimers as usual, and that is 1, these videos are unedited. 2, I probably more than likely stumble my wording. And 3, I will apologise in advance if I mispronounce any of the names in the Bible. So let's get started. So we are going to be going first to the introduction for the first Chronicles and also the second. So we're going to be going to 1049 or 1049. So the first Chronicles is the first and second Chronicles. Originally one book, was written sometime after Judah began to return from the Babylonian exile in 558 BC. It focuses primarily on the history of Judea, the southern kingdom of the Davidic Israel. First Chronicles begin with several genealogies with special emphasis on David and Solomon. The chronicler moves next to the history of the kingdom under David, stressing David's deep interest in worship and his detailed plans for the construction of the temple, which would be built by his son Solomon. First Chronicles was probably written to reassure the return of exiles God's faithfulness towards his people. Its author is unknown, although may have thought that Ezra was the principal writer. Then we go on to the second at the bottom. The second Chronicles, which extends 1 Chronicles history of Judea, was written sometime after the people began to return from the Babylonian exile in 538 BC. The chronicler, perhaps trying to encourage the return to exiles, recalled the greatness of Solomon's reign. Most of the book, however, focuses on Judea's fall into sin, which had led to exile. Judea had several godly kings, especially Hezekiah and Josiah, but it still declined into sin. Still, God remained faithful to his covenant people, and as the book closes, it jumps ahead several years, recording the decree of Cyrus that allowed the Jewish exiles to return to their promised land. The author is unknown, although many have thought that Ezra was the principal writer. So now we go back to 1 Chronicles. Gotta try and find it now. So there we are. So I'm going to lift it up slightly. So, from Adam to Abraham. Adam, Seth, Enoch, Kenan, Malachi, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tyrus. The sons of Gomer: Ashkenazar, Riphatha, and Togmar. The sons of Javan: Elisha, Targish, Kittimim, and Rodanam. The sons of Ham: Cush, Egypt, Put, Canaan. The sons of Cush: Seba, Havilah, Sabata, Ramahah, Zephatiah. The sons of Ramahah: Sheba, Debnan. Cush fathered Nimrod, and he was the first on earth to be the mighty man. Egypt fathered Luban, Ammonan, Lebanon, Naphtali, Petharush, Calashustim, from whom the Philistines came, and Capitrin. So we're now into 13. Canaan fathered Sibdom, his firstborn, and Heath, and the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hittites, the Akratites, the Sibonites, the Abadites, the Zemarites, and the Hamathites. Oh my gosh, that probably been mispronounced completely. 17. The sons of Zem: Elam, Ashur, Apasikat, Lud, and Amran. And the sons of Amram, Aram even, Uz, Hul, Gether, Mashachite, Apakazed, I think. I'm really don't know. Fathered Shelah, and Shelah fathered Eber. To Eber were born 2 sons. The name of the one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided, and his brother's name is Joktan. Joktan fathered Amminadab. Oh my gosh, I'm really going to struggle now. Shelip, Hazametha, Jira, Habadorma, Uzzah, Dekla, even not the other one, Obla, Abima, Sheba, Opahir, Havilah, Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Shem, Apazad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Ru, Shirug, Nanor, Tuher, Aram, that is Abraham. So now we're going to from Abraham to Jacob. 28. The sons of Abraham: Isaac and Ishmael. These are their genealogies. The firstborn of Ishmael: Nebaioth and Kedar, Abidbal, Misham, Duma, Massa, Hadabad, Tima, Je'er, Napish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael. The sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine. She bore Zimram, Joksam, Medam, Midadam, Ishbak, and Shuha. The sons of Jocham, Sheba and Dibam. The sons of Midam, Epon, Ether, Hanok, Abadah, Elabada. All these were descendants of Ketur. Abraham fathered Isaac, the son of Isaac, Ashu and Israel, the sons of Ashu, Elihaz, Reu, Jehus, Jalam, and Korah, the sons of Elazbaz, Timan, Omar, Zephaho, Gatam, Kenaz, and Timnah, and Almech, the sons of Reuel, Nephal, Zihah, Zamahah, and Mizahah. Oh my gosh. The sons of Zir, Lotas, Shalobs, Zinaban, Anhan, Dishon, Ezir, and Dishan. The sons of Lotam, Hora, and Heman, and Lotam's sister was Timnah. The sons of Shalabah, Alnaban, Manashaz, Ibabal, Shibahu, and Umanan. The sons of Zebulun, Iyah, and Anha, Anha. The sons of Anha, Dishon. Sons of Dishon, Hemadan, Eshaban, Issaran, and Shiran. Sons of Ezra, Belanhan, Zihan, and Akan. And the sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran even. I think that's how it's pronounced. 43. These are the kings who reigned in the land of Ebnon before the king reigned over the people of Israel. Bela, the son of Beor, the name of his city began in Dimnah. Bela died, and Jobab, the son of Zedahah, and Bozahah reigned in his place. Jobab died, and Hushaman of the land of the Hemanites reigned in the place. Husham died, and Haban, the son of Bedanan, defeated in Midian. The company of Moab reigned in his place, and the name of the city being Aviheth. Habad died, and Samalah of Mezakai reigned in his place. Samahar died, and Shul of Rehoboth of the Urites reigned in his place. Shul died, and Balahana, the son of Achbor, reigned in his place. Balahana died, and Hadad reigned in his place. The name of his city being Pai, and his wife's name was Mechabel, the daughter of Mathahared, the daughter of Mezahab, and Habadad died. The chiefs of Ebnon were chiefs of Tina, Alva, Jether, Olaholban, Illa, Pinanon, Kenazaz, Temanan, Mibazar, Megabal, and Irim. These were the chiefs of Ebden. So, I'm not going to lie, I know full well those names were mispronounced, and I do apologise because I know that they've been mispronounced. So, that is chapter 1 complete. Tomorrow we'll be doing chapter 2, and now we're going to be talking about the bits in pink. So, the author is unknown, but Ezra is a likely candidate, which we have read in the introductions. The author, traditionally known as the Chronicler, and it's likely to be a priest or a Levite, and who was employed in service of the temple during the Purisan period. The chronicler would have had scribal training and access to temple records. The main theme throughout the book of Chronicles is God's covenant with David as the basis of Israel's life and hope. The main audience would have been Jewish people who returned to Jerusalem after the Babylonian exile. Book to remind this book is to remind them of their history. And it would have been written between the 5th and the 4th century. Some scholars suggest a date of 400 BC. So 400 BC would have been the likelihood of when the book of Chronicles would have been written. The Chronicles use earlier historical books for sources. Abraham's family leading to David and beyond. Hope for the Messiah and the new temple. So what any of this means, I know you're probably thinking, Alice, I have no idea what you just said. So that's why I'm here. Don't worry, I'm here for a reason. So we can go back over it. So the author is unknown, so they don't know who would have likely been the author, but Ezra would have been the likely candidate. They think he would have been that likely candidate, but then they don't really know if it is him. But the author of the Book of Chronicles is known as a chronicler, and historians and scholars suggest it would have been a priest or a Levite, and they were employed in the service of the temple during the Persian period. And the chronicler would have had scribal training and access to temple records, and you would have to have had access to these records to be able to produce the book that we have. I'll explain why in a second. The main theme throughout the Book of Chronicles is God's covenant with David and the basis of Israel's life and hope. So the main theme throughout all of this is the covenant that David had with God. So the audience would have been Jewish people, and they would have been so that audience would have been those who had returned to Jerusalem after the Babylonian exile. So once the Babylonian exile had been ended, the Jewish people would have returned, and this book would have been for them. The Book of Chronicles is to remind them of their history. It's basically a very interesting history book without it being too historical in content. So you buy a book in relation to the Tudor period, and you learn all about the Tudor period in that particular period, but this is going about from Adam right away through. So it's going to be very interesting because the Book of Chronicles do repeat throughout all the other books. So why I say we do this one first is this gives us the basis of all the other books that we're going to come to. So it will give you a basic understanding, and it will give you the foundation to the Bible. So there is a reason why I do things the way I do it, and I'm actually doing it because I've been prompted to do it. And anyway, that's why. So the Book of Chronicles would have been written during the 5th and the 4th century BCE. BCE is before Common Era, but it's the same as BC, before Christ. Some scholars suggest its date of being 400 BC. They suggest it's that, but they're not sure, as with anything else. It's just, they haven't just picked out a date and picked it out and just went with it. There's a reason behind it, and it's obviously having extensive research into it all for why they suggest it's that date, but it doesn't mean it's set in stone. The chronicler uses earlier historical books as sources. So as I said, this wouldn't have been written before, say, Genesis. Obviously, it's been written after Genesis because of what I'm going to get to it afterwards. So it is kind of, it would have been written quite some time after. A lot of the books in the Bible would have been written because of information that's in it. And because of that, that's why this book is much later than other books in the Bible. And then it talks about Abraham's family leading up to David and beyond. It just, it's talking about the family history of it all. And another key theme is hope for Messiah and the new temple. So that's what they're hoping for. So at the start, you see Adam being mentioned, and the reason why Adam is mentioned is because God planned to make Israel his chosen people since the very beginning of history. So that's why they picked Adam, because he was obviously the chosen person at the beginning. He was the one that started, the first person to go into the Garden of Eden, and then obviously they created Eve out of his rib. So he's the first being, so that's why he is mentioned first. It does come across like there's a load of names, and it is all of their like Adam's children, right away through to like Jacob at the bottom. Not saying Jacob itself, but it's going through the family history, and it's always interesting to know who these people are, because if you had just opened the Bible up now and you didn't know anything, you'll be thinking, why are they listing a load of names? They're listing a load of names because they're listing out the family history, the family tree, because obviously everybody comes from somebody. So we could do our family tree and talk about our family and go like your mom, so yourself, your mom or your dad, then your grandparents and your great grandparents, and so forth and so forth, and goes up so far. Now obviously in the Bible they do know more about the history of each of these families, because obviously it's been mentioned throughout. You will find during the book of Chronicles and any of the other books, it's going to be a lot of overlapping information. So when we get through Chronicles and then we go into another book, you'll be thinking, I remember that being mentioned in the book of Chronicles. It's because there is always going to be that overlappingness and that overlapping of stories and people. That's always going to be a key theme throughout the Bible, a lot of overlapping of stories, and one book will mention something about somebody and then another book will mention about that same person. Case in point, obviously, with Esther, at the end of Esther, it was recorded in the book of Chronicles, so we'll come across that at some point, and you will be thinking, I've already read that before in book of Esther. Yes, you have, but it's also been recorded into the book of Chronicles as well, as a history book of what happened with the story of Esther. So that's what I mean, it's just a history book, and it's recording all the history of everything that's ever happened and ever happened before it obviously came out, because obviously that's the point of a history book. It records all the historical events and historical people that have happened over time, and once we understand that and be able to figure that out as the books, the chapters go through, we'll soon to understand that, and it is very interesting. I mean, some people do sometimes wonder, is the book of Chronicles actually worth reading? Yes, it is worth reading. It is worth understanding what's happened and how it's going to happen and how it's going to portray further down the line. It's very, very interesting. I mean, Is it a book that I personally like to read? Obviously not, because we've already covered the two books I actually quite like, which is Psalms and Proverbs. But I do appreciate the fact that Chronicles records all the history of, Jewish history, so it gives you the understanding of what's happened and why it happened and when it happened. And even though chapter 1 is just listing a lot of names that I have badly mispronounced, which I know I have, those people have a significant importance to the Bible, and we need to be able to understand that significance of those people, because it is really important to be able to know who these people were and where they came from and where they fit into the Bible, and in exactly which father they came from, be able to get further afield. It is a very interesting book, the Book of Chronicles, and yeah, so that's chapter 1 complete. So then I'll write in the day and the date. Just gotta find my pen. I'll put stuff down and then forget where I put it. Usually happens. So it's the 16th day, 16th of May 25. So thank you for watching. Please like my content. Please subscribe to my channel and please turn on the notification bell so you get notified of content like this that gets uploaded to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.